Coming up on market shares, hurricanes and strikes are being blamed for a bummer of a job report just 4 days before the election. How these new numbers could throw the candidates a curveball. Plus, Comcast could be shaking up the media landscape, what the company is proposing for its major networks. And the Dow jumping 400 points to kick off November, how the major indexes ended the week. Hold on to your wallets because market share starts right now. We're doing Drew's segment. Good afternoon and welcome into Market Shares. I'm Ben Bascuk. We are about 15 minutes after the closing bell on this Friday afternoon. In some good news, the key inflation rate has dropped to 2.1% during the month of September. The Federal Reserve targets 2% as their metric for inflation, which means we're getting back to the normal post-pandemic levels. Personal income and consumer spending increased slightly, while the rate of personal savings is down by 4.6%. And the October jobs report was released just earlier today, painting a murky picture of how America's economy did in the month of October. Joining us in studio to take us through it is Market Shares political analyst Drew Matyasik. Drew, what do you got for us?
Thank you, Ben. The October jobs report that was just released early this morning showed really slow job growth in the past month. Now, this isn't entirely unexpected considering the country went through 2 disastrous hurricanes and multiple strikes in October, but it still isn't the best jobs report, and by a lot. The U.S. economy only added 12,000 jobs in the last 4 weeks when the expected number was 113,000, the lowest it has been throughout the entire Biden administration. The White House's Council of Economic Advisors is really pushing that the poor jobs figure is due to the hurricanes and labor strikes and that the economy is not actually soft. They noted that the amount of people that are not at work because of the severe weather increased by 460,000 in October and is reassuring the public that the labor market is still healthy. Now, as Ben mentioned earlier this morning, the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ continue to rise, so Wall Street doesn't seem to be too concerned. However, the Trump campaign pounced on this, saying that this proves that Kamala Harris and her economic policies are disastrous for America. In a statement from the White House, President Biden called attention to the unemployment rate, which is around 4.1%, which is a historically low level in the past 50 years, and instead turned the blame to President Trump's tariff policy, which he says will have a negative impact on jobs for Americans.
Yeah, thanks, Drew. Well, we're joined here at the desk with Luke Radel. We're going to go down all this jobs reporting.
Sorry I'm late. You know what? The Speaker of the House is in town, so you got to say hi. We asked about the CHIPS Act. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But first, with the election just 4 days away, Drew, how will this jobs report impact the race, if any?
Well, I don't think it will really have an impact on the race. I mean, we just saw a figure coming out of the news just a few minutes ago. 67 million Americans have already cast their ballot. Yeah. I mean, you know, with early voting happening, so many Americans have already made up their mind. And this jobs report isn't at the top of the headlines for Fox News, MSNBC. Many Americans aren't worried about this jobs report, especially considering the hurricanes that just happened.
Yeah, Drew, we've seen job numbers adjust months after they've come out. Are those numbers going to keep changing in the future? What's that look like going into post-election season?
It definitely will be changing. You know, a lot of companies, especially down south, that were affected by that hurricane, their main priority wasn't getting those job numbers into the federal government. Their main priority was getting these people back to work. And, you know, we keep seeing this reassessment of job weeks and months after they come out. So without a doubt in my mind that these numbers will continue to be changing in the coming weeks.
Drew, thank you so much. Really appreciate you being here.
Coming up, former President Trump criticizes the CHIPS Act bringing Micron to Syracuse. What a Trump presidency could mean for the jobs in the Syracuse area. Stay with us.
Hey, Hard, what's this?
That's my resignation letter.
You're resigning.
Why? Because you're constantly ignoring me. You're half as active as you used to be, and you eat stuff like this. You've been putting me under a lot of pressure lately. That's why I'm ready to quit.
I forgot. I'll do better. Please.
Don't quit on me. Okay. But remember, it's not what you say. It's what you do.
Listen to your heart. Don't let it quit on you.
Let's go for a walk.
Uncontrolled high blood pressure could lead to a stroke, heart attack, or death. Get yours to a healthy range before it's too late.
1 in 3 adults has pre-diabetes. That means it could be you, your favorite brother, your other brother, you, your football buddy, your football buddy, you, your plumber.
Breathe right into your foot.
Your plumber's masseuse.
Yes.
You, your dog walker, your cat jogger. With early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Welcome back to Market Shares. Time now for our market update. Let's take a look at where the major indexes have fallen at the end of this week. First, let's take a look at the NASDAQ, down about 371 points. That's a drop of 2% this week.
The S&P 500 is just also around 2%, a drop of 89 points, and the Dow just down around 0.5 percentage. Now, a lot of those losses are because of those big tech companies. Supermicro, which we'll get to in a minute here, Luke, leading the pack. Eli Lilly Pharmaceuticals also falling 6%, very much contributing to the drop in the S&P 500 right there.
Tough time to be a tech company these days, especially if you're looking at the NASDAQ. That was a big
for sure. I mean, the tech sector is a really volatile coming out of Silicon Valley, and a lot of changes with AI and microchip producers coming into play here. I mean, that's all up in the air. I think investors aren't 100% sure on where that lies.
Lots of concern about the future of AI. Let's take a look at one of those tech companies, actually. I think it's our first market mover, Ben. What do we got?
It is. Supermicro. Now, what a lot of investors say are when you see accounting irregularities, it's time to move, it's time to sell, it's time to get rid of it, but we're not 100% sure. We don't know. Supermicro is down this week, 33% plunging on Wednesday. That continued into Thursday with a 12% drop. Now, a lot of that comes after Ernst & Young resigned. That is the company's auditor, saying that they were unwilling to be associated with the financial statements prepared by management. Now, since Supermicro joined the S&P 500 in March, they lost more than 2/3 of their value and now face risk of NASDAQ delisting. Now, Supermicro has been under the wire for a while now. We saw the DOJ coming out and looking at their financial statements in the past. And it's a time when Supermicro's finances and accounting statements aren't really known by their investors. And I think that's where people got cold feet, and that's what we saw contribute to the stock drop this past week.
Yeah, 100%. You know, they talked about how when accounting firms have disagreements with various companies, usually they'll say it privately. They don't write it in a letter that's going to be then released to the public about what they disagree with. So really interesting to see how these ethical issues come into play on Supermicro.
Yeah, I mean, Supermicro was also previously delisted from the NASDAQ back in 2018, and now again they're risking delisting again. So they've had problems with their accounting and finances in the past, obviously coming under inspection by the DOJ. So we'll have to see what the future holds for them, and we'll see what next auditing company steps up and what the CFO action is going to be there as well if changes happen on the executive level.
Completely unprecedented to see something like this. Speaking of some potential unethical breaches, let's
or
talk about
unprecedented, former precedented.
Wow, that is a lot of word association happening here. DJT, the Donald J. Trump media company stock, is down this week. If you take a look at how it went so far, down about 10 points. That's 25%, now selling at around $31 a share. So really interesting to track this stock because it doesn't seem to correlate to any particular product. There really isn't a viable product anyway with a business model. Truth Social is the company that is a part of this Trump media enterprise. Not a lot of users on Truth Social except for the former president, but even the former president has moved from Truth Social, now posting back on Twitter, returning to the place where he was pretty good at posting for a good long while.
Consistent.
That was helpful, you know, in getting him elected the first time around. And it's been really interesting to see how, even with no product, it keeps to fluctuate. And we're going to talk about the betting markets later for the election.
Yeah.
The DJT stock has kind of acted like a betting market. It's worth more when Donald Trump is doing well and worth less when he's doing worse.
I mean, this comes after that 120% surge back in October for the stock, and now we're seeing it drop again. I think it's interesting, like you said, those betting markets going into election season. What can the markets and what can these movers we're talking about today tell us about who the next president may be?
Well, with such precipitous drops and rises and falls, it's had to halt sharing a lot of times, including yesterday. It halted twice with trading on the stock exchange. So it'd be really interesting to see, especially after Tuesday, what's going to happen to this stock.
I know. We'll see if it goes up or down depending on the results.
All right, we're going to talk about a company with actual products now. This is Microsoft. You can take a look at this. Down 20 points, almost 20 points on the week, about 5% there. Still trading at around $412 a share, so a little bit better than DJT.
Fell 6% Thursday after a week of third quarter earnings. They downsized high expectations for those high earning companies. That's kind of what happens when people see these high earning companies. Their expectations are also really high, and then drops like this happen, and everyone's shocked. So it's the steepest drop since October 2022. A lot of that supply chain issues, delays in third-party infrastructure, and artificial intelligence, which we talked about on the show a lot here in the past.
And perhaps not enough people playing Xbox these days.
Maybe that's it.
I don't know. They're all so busy. They're all worried about the election. They're watching the news. They're not playing as much video games. That's my personal prognostication based on no expertise in the field.
Yeah, I mean, it could be that. It could also be that they're failing to keep up and building their data centers, failing to keep up with that.
See, that sounds like the right answer. That sounds like an answer with research behind it. Yeah, no, not just not just whatever that was. Yeah, no, really interesting to watch how all three of those movers have been happening so far.
Yeah, I mean, and we talked about Trump a little bit here in the past. But he's coming up again with us here, talking about chips. We also talked about microchips. Right. So here's kind of the in-between of both of those things. We saw Trump speak out the other day.
Yeah, on Joe Rogan's podcast. Take a listen to what he had to say about the Chips and Science Act that's helping folks right here at Syracuse.
They do it, but let me just say, that chip deal is so bad. We put up billions of dollars for rich companies to come and then borrow the money and build chip companies here, and they're not going to give us the good companies anyway. All you had to do is charge them tariffs. If you would have put a tariff on the chips coming in, you would have been able to, just like the auto companies, no different. You know, Taiwan, they stole our chip business, okay? They want us to protect, and they want protection. They don't pay us money for the protection, you know? The mob makes you pay money, right?
So a couple of interesting things there, Ben.
For sure.
First and foremost, saying that he wants to deal with Taiwan the way the mob asks for protection. That's a very interesting geopolitical strategy. Yeah. There are a lot of microchips that are made in Taiwan. That's one of the reasons why it's become a strategic imperative that the United States defend Taiwan if it is invaded by China. And
I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of American companies still rely on those chips from Taiwan. I mean, NVIDIA, we've talked a lot about, Apple, Hyperscale, they all depend on Taiwan for those chip building capabilities. And now he's talking about tariffs on other countries and is also going to heavily impact the chip market here in the United States.
And the idea that tariffs were going to force these microchip manufacturers to move here, a lot of economists say that that does not actually track with reality, which makes microchips more expensive for American companies that are trying to buy them from overseas. You know, I'm going to do a shameless plug. I did have the chance to ask Speaker Mike Johnson in Syracuse about this, and we'll have the video for you on News Live at 6, but I'll give you an exclusive preview now.
Yeah, what do you hear, Luke?
He says that he wants to repeal the CHIPS Act. Speaker Johnson does. If they have Republican majority in Congress, Donald Trump in the White House, they would like to repeal the CHIPS Act. I then asked Congressman Williams, who was standing right behind him, if he wants to repeal the CHIPS Act, and he said no. He said that I will tell Speaker Johnson, hey, maybe let's not do that, basically. I'm paraphrasing
I mean, it definitely could possibly affect jobs here, will affect jobs here in the Syracuse area.
Affect jobs
but also the entire technology supply chain. I mean, the way that those tariffs are dealt out, that's going to increase prices for everyone. Inflation's going to go up in that sector specifically.
Well, the decline of U.S. manufacturing jobs is affecting a lot of people in these swing states in the presidential race. Pennsylvania is definitely one of them. An independent Senator Bernie Sanders has been on the ground there in battleground Pennsylvania. He was talking to working class voters there about why they shouldn't support Donald Trump. Take a listen to this.
It bothers me. I don't mind billionaires voting for Trump. I expect that. But it does bother me, and you know them. There are some working class people who are angry, they're upset. Some of them are thinking of voting for Trump, and I want to speak to those people. Right now in America, we have a disgraceful federal minimum wage of what? $7.25 an hour. That you have a billionaire up there, and Donald Trump, or a supposed billionaire, who knows, claims to be a billionaire, and he thinks that we should not raise the starvation minimum wage of $7.25 to a living wage. That is outrageous.
Yeah, Sanders is running for re-election next week. He is 83 years old. It's hard to believe, but Election Day is just 4 days away, and the candidates have been racking up the donations. Despite the large numbers put up by both the Trump and Harris campaigns, not all donors are created equal. Here to break down the billions of dollars in campaign finance is Market Shares analyst Ethan Kraut. Ethan?
Hey, Ben. Yeah, this is expected to be one of the most expensive elections in campaign history. So if we take a look at how the two candidates are doing right now, with their small donors, these donations are being made directly to the candidates' campaigns and their committees. Kamala Harris leading the way with just under $1.6 billion. Former President Trump, about $500 million behind, just over $1 billion. Now, this is not the only way that the candidates can make money here, or get money in their campaign. They also have political action committees, or PACs, and that's where some of the biggest donors, like the billionaires Bernie Sanders was talking about, donate their money. If we take a look at just the top 50 donors to this campaign, it's staggering to see the difference between the small donors and the big donors. Kamala Harris, who is leading the small donors, only has $752 million from these top 50 donors, while former President Trump, $1.6 billion, about double what Kamala Harris is made with these donors. And also, when you take a look at the top 5, all 5 of the top 5 donors are donating to Republican PACs. You have Timothy Mellon donating nearly $200 million, as well as a name that we have all seen a lot on this show, Elon Musk, $132 million he's donated. A lot of this to, you've seen on Twitter or X now, I guess. And he has donated a lot to help the former president get back to office. Now, when we look at the Democrat side with the top donors, we have former Mayor Michael Bloomberg donating $47 million, while Dustin Moskovitz, one of the co-founders of Facebook donating about $38 million and $39. But that's a big difference to that top donor, the $197 million we saw on the Republican side. It'll be interesting to see in the next 4 days how that makes a difference, guys.
Ben, thank you so much. Ethan, thank you so much. It's one of those days. It's been really interesting to see Elon Musk is the 4th highest spending. He's the richest guy in the world. You think he'd be spending a little bit more?
A little bit cheapskate there, huh?
I know, seriously, it'd be really interesting. You know, one of the things that so many people have talked about is the Citizens United ruling and how we can have basically unlimited spending of money in politics. Money is speech, therefore.
Yeah, I think it's a concern of a lot of Americans too. I mean, they see these big donor names, and I think that can also often decrease how much security they have in their own vote. And like, what does my vote mean versus some of these donors coming from these big corporations and private companies?
Well, and these voters get inundated with ads. We're seeing it here in our congressional district. You're seeing it in your home state of Ohio for the Senate race. We're seeing it in all those battleground swing states for the presidential contest. Really interesting to see if at some point somebody's going to say, wait a second, maybe if we spend all this money, we might actually annoy more voters than we actually convince.
And I think also after all those ads, I mean, very few times you see that those ads are created by the candidate themselves. A lot of the times you're seeing they're from those nonprofits, those third parties where a lot of that money's coming into.
100%. Well, we're going to be talking a lot more about the election. We got 4 more days to go. Ethan, thanks again. Ethan. Coming up on Market Shares, Robinhood has jumped into the election betting market. Yeah, we're talking more about it. How you can place bets on the 2024 election after this.
Did you hear about the pony with a sore throat? He was a little horse. Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding. Why couldn't the Why was the basketball court all wet? Why? Because the players kept dribbling all over it. Where did cats go on vacation? New York.
Welcome back into Market Shares. We have a gold medal to give for Comcast. Get it, Ben, because they do the Olympics. The company beat third quarter expectations as the Summer Olympics boosted NBC Universal's revenue and Peacock subscribers. Earnings per share was a little over $1.10 compared to the expected $1.06. Comcast revenue rose 6.5% to over $32 billion. The Olympics attracted an average daily viewership of 31 million people across NBC platforms and generated a record $1.2 billion in advertising revenue. The company's film studio also saw an increase, while theme parks and its cable broadband unit saw decreases. And Ben, I was watching the Olympics all summer long. I was watching Gold Zone specifically. I was. Because it's Syracuse alum, Scott Hansen, is the creator.
I'm excited for the Winter Olympics, but that winter's coming up.
I'm
excited.
Sure. I'm excited.
It's about that time. Despite this release, Comcast is trying to navigate the impact of cord cutting. Earlier this week, they proposed separating NBC's cable networks.
The logic here is pretty straightforward. Its cable networks are not growing anymore. The focus has shifted to promoting Peacock, which is still losing money. The proposal includes its networks such as Bravo, MSNBC, and CNBC merging with another media company or consolidating with a number of different companies. If Comcast moves forward and sees a spike in value, this could shake up the cable media landscape as we know it. I can't imagine not having Rachel Maddow on my screen. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Well, the end is in sight for the Boeing employees' 7-week strike now. Now, the Machinist Union and Boeing Corp negotiated a 38% general wage increase to take place over 4 years. Now, the company is up about 5 points in today's trading, with investors optimistic that the strike's end could bring production back to first quarter levels. Now, the deal would bring company compounding pay increases over 40%, giving workers the option of a one-time ratification bonus of $12,000 or a lesser bonus coupled with a $7,000 401k contribution. Boeing needs its 32,000 machinists back in factories after facing a $6 billion quarterly loss. Now, the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers said Thursday that in every negotiation and strike, there is a point where we have extracted everything that we can in bargaining, and by withholding our labor, we are at a point now and risk a regressive or lesser offer in the future. The offer to raise worker pay is set for a vote Monday, but the company tells investors it will continue to burn cash through 2025.
As long as the door doesn't fall out on my flight, I'm supportive of the deal.
There you go. We've been talking about it for a while, so it's finally over,
yes,
right?
Indeed.
And also, Amazon stock has popped almost 6% after the company reported stronger revenue and earnings per share for the third quarter. The company posted earnings per share of $1.43 compared to $1.16, that analysts expected. Its revenue was almost $160 billion compared to the $157 billion expected.
And one reason for this surge is the company's new AI products in its cloud and e-commerce businesses. Another bright spot in its report was its advertising revenue. Sales expanded 19% year over year.
Now turning to beauty, well, a family feud turns to a financial crisis. Beauty giant Estee Lauder saw shares plunge almost 20% yesterday, slashing dividends in half and pulling benchmarks for the year with another quarter of failing sales. The board cut the quarterly dividend 47%, freeing up cash for reconstruction efforts, but warns sales will continue to fall 6 to 8% in Q3. Beauty brands are struggling in volatile Asian markets, specifically in mainland China. Once top-tier brands are aging amongst consumers, turning to cosmetic procedures and local enterprises, more smaller businesses. For the first time ever, no member of the Lauder family will hold a senior executive role. Rather, L'Oreal Paris CEO Stéphane de la Faverie will take over next year.
You crushed.
Did you like that? I practiced that one.
That was really good. The popular fitness app Strava may be posing a national security risk. An investigation by French newspaper Le Monde, did I do okay?
That was good.
Found that the movements of high-profile figures like President Biden, Vice President Harris, and former President Trump can be easily tracked online. Here's how it works. The newspaper found out that some U.S. Secret Service agents are using the fitness app, including in the weeks following the 2 assassination attempts on former President Trump. In a statement released by the Secret Service, they said that its staff is no longer allowed to use personal electronic devices while on duty, but they do not prohibit, personal social media use when off duty. They also said that, quote, affected personnel has been notified and they will review this information to determine if any additional training or guidance is required.
We were talking about Strava. Something I haven't done in a while is track my biking on Strava. Something I haven't picked up in a while is the Peloton ever since the pandemic. Well, Peloton is now shifting gears. The company said yesterday they appointed their new and third CEO, Ford executive and co-founder of Apple Fitness, plus Peter Stern. Now that follows a disappointing second quarter outlook, but the announcement caused an immediate jump in fiscal first quarter earnings, with shares up over 30% in early trading. In May, the company slashed 15% of its workforce when original founder John Foley revived Peloton by cutting costs and appointing former Spotify and Netflix CEO Barry McCarthy. Now, like many companies, Peloton is shifting toward a more high-margin recurring subscription model. That's an approach that Stern spearheaded for Ford and Apple, and he'll continue probably to do with Peloton. Now, Stern will step down from Ford and take up the Peloton seat on January 1st, going into the high-profit Peloton holiday season.
Do they think their board meetings have like the bikes in the office?
I like that idea. Maybe we're right now. We'll get one for the station.
That'd be fun. All right, with the presidential election coming up, did you hear? The presidential election's coming up. People are submitting their ballots and also their bets. Riley Underwood is here to tell us about the newest betting craze. Hey, Riley.
Hey, Luke. Yeah, with just a click of a few buttons on my smartphone, I can bet the Chiefs to win on Monday and Donald Trump to win his game on Tuesday night. His game, of course, is the election, and an overwhelming majority of users are putting their money on the 45th president to win his second race in 3 tries. Trump overwhelming. Across major betting markets, his odds to beat Kamala Harris sit right around 62%, much higher than the neck-and-neck race the polls project. The election betting has not only gained traction in the States, but also overseas. Polymarket is a site hosting bets only for people outside the U.S., and one French user even put $28.6 million bet on Donald Trump to win. All in all, Americans have bet hundreds of millions of dollars on the election, while overseas bettors have bet more than $2 billion on the election. Yeah, with a B. More recently, financial service and investment company Robinhood has opened its doors to election betting for the United States. So if I put $10 on Trump, I would win 6, but if I put $10 on Harris, I would win 16. And this new feature, though, it hasn't saved Robinhood stock just yet. In its third quarter earnings report, they reported a stark 12% decline in shares, despite a significant increase in cryptocurrency trading volume and revenue. Days later, and they're still feeling the impacts. One of the reported causes of the fall was an increase in money spent on promotions, and they expect the cost to grow even more in Q4. Guys, betting on the election, you guys putting any money down?
I'm not a betting man.
No.
But Luke, how about you?
I'm too anxious about the election to actually put money on the line. Like, I'm already going to be on the air for 4 hours that night. I don't need any other stakes involved here. But have you put any money down, Riley?
I haven't yet. I mean, I don't know. Maybe the bettors know something we don't, because overwhelmingly people are supporting putting their money on Donald Trump.
I do think it's interesting how we've seen kind of betting invade different sectors. I mean, first, obviously, in sports, but now moving to politics. I think it's a pivot we've seen in the last couple of years, and I think it's a really interesting move on the side and how that's going to affect investors too.
I know, I might have to put a couple parlays down. I don't know.
You might have
I feel like the betting markets might be a little bit more of a reliable indicator than the polls right now, since every single poll is like 50-50, 50-50. It like seems like maybe, I don't know, if people are putting their money down, that might be a good indicator.
A little better margins maybe.
Absolutely.
Well,
Riley.
coming up on Market Shares, where you can get some free goods on Election Day. Stay tuned.
Love free stuff.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for information on how to provide even better care for the person who wants to care of you.
You've messed up your son's haircut.
Mom?
Do you A, try to fix it?
Like it never happened.
B, work with what you got? Or C, show solidarity?
Thank you, babe.
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
I see you mobbing over her. Let's go. Let's mob. Let's crawl. Let's crawl. Let's crawl. Hey, yo, we mobbing. Come on, girl. Let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl. Hey, let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl.
Hey, and welcome back to Market Shares. I'm Luke Radel alongside Ben Bascuk. And on Tuesday, you can get more than just an I voted sticker. On Election Day, companies such as Uber, Krispy Kreme, and IKEA are offering perks to customers, from discounted rides to free treats.
Now, while it's illegal to reward people for voting, these perks are considered promotions and discounts. Uber is offering 50% off their rides to polling locations, and Krispy Kreme is giving away free donuts in honor of Dough-macracy.
Dough-macracy. I love that. That's so much fun. I feel like a donut is so much better than a sticker. You can't eat a sticker, or if you did, it wouldn't taste very good.
Day after Halloween, had too much candy. I don't know if I can do a whole pack of donuts, but we'll see.
Krispy Kreme donuts are very sweet.
But I do think it's interesting how they're using promotions to kind of get out the vote effort. And
sure. I mean, special days like Election Day, or like Ben's birthday, because it's Ben's birthday. He's 20 years old.
I am 20.
Do you know what we got you for your 20th birthday?
What'd you get me?
We gave you your anchor debut on Market Shares.
And it's been a great time being here.
It's been so much fun.
Now, I will say I'm looking forward to the free stuff on Election Day, but also the free stuff today. I am going to cash in my Texas Roadhouse birthday coupon tonight.
What do they do at Texas Roadhouse? Besides, do they have you sit on like the saddle thing?
Of course.
Let's give your loudest and rowdiest Texas Roadhouse yeehaw. I feel like every time they do that, their stock price should go through the roof, because it's just the best possible experience.
I agree.
Who would want to go there? Well, that is all the time we have in show. We got to get to Texas Roadhouse.
We do.
For all of us here at CitrusTV News, I'm Luke Radel.
And I'm Ben Bascuk.